Hello everyone, my name is Deepak and I'm a tax code advisor. Today I'll talk about what you should do if you were not able to file your taxes. I think this is a matter that affects millions of taxpayers in the United States every single year. But what prompted me to make this video today is actually I met a gentleman who ran into somebody who promised them big tax savings only if they don't file the taxes and decides to work with them. Normally, whenever somebody asks you to only work with them, it should be a red flag. You really need to get to know that person. You need to understand what kind of tax firm they have, what kind of clients they work with, and you should have some history with them. I wouldn't really go to a new person right away. I want to, watch them. I want to see their history. I want to work with them a little bit at a time before I trust into these kind of fancy tax strategies. Um, Sometimes these people will say, look, let's say if your tax bill is $100,000, they will let you settle it for $10,000 or $5,000 or something like that. And they will give you an actual IRS code. They will even give you a website where you can go check it. So it will seem like all legit, and all of that stuff might be legit, except that person itself perhaps is a fraud. So I'll talk about some of those red flags as to what you should watch out for, and more importantly, what should you really do? So that's the purpose of today's call. But if there's anything I can do to help you out personally, then please don't hesitate. You can just reach out to me from taxcodeadvisors.com. My introductory call is always free, so there's no charge. You get to pick up the phone and talk to me directly. And if you like what I have to offer you, then we can set up a proper consultation call. All right, so let's get started. Number one, anybody telling you that you should not file, don't trust them. That itself is a red flag. Always file your tax return, even if you cannot afford to pay. I mean, I can understand sometimes people gonna rather file quickly within a few weeks, and they have some strategy going on. There's a reason behind it. I can understand that. But let's just say if you don't have your documents ready or you don't have enough money to file your taxes, I don't think those are the legit reasons why you should not file taxes. You can always file an amendment if needed. So never trust on that advice. That's number one. Why? Well, because penalty for not filing your return is 10 times worse than not paying your taxes. That's number one reason. Number two, filing reduces your audit risk and you avoid obviously interest and penalties. For example, let's say you owe $10,000 to IRS. Penalty for not filing might be $500, but penalty for not paying might be $50 a month. So kind of gives you an idea why I tell you to do that. Number two, like I said earlier, anytime somebody comes up to you and say, look, I have this strategy, I have this system, I have this program, something like that, watch out for those people. Talk to your tax professional about what they have to offer. And the reason why people fall victim of these kind of crimes is because they think that their tax professional doesn't understand something, and this new gentleman on the block is uh, is way smarter, and he can offer you something that your CPA or whoever you've been working with cannot offer that to you, which might be true. It is possible that your tax professional might not be that proficient in that particular tax strategy. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody needs to know everything. My goal is not that you don't learn new strategies or don't seek out a better advice. My goal is that you don't fall victim of crimes. So I think you should still have a starting point. The problem is, and I'm from this industry, problem is that most CPAs, most tax professionals don't want to talk to their clients. They want to just wrap up their tax returns and move on. They're way too busy. So it's not like a one-sided problem. It's really a two-side problem. Most of these kind of scams come in the form of some sort of offer and compromise, some sort of hey, you don't have to pay. Look, I was able to save this guy this much money. They motivate you by giving you examples after examples. If you come to any of my seminars or webinars, one thing I always tell all my clients is don't make a decision because a lot of people made that decision. That's just a bad way of making any decision. You want to do your own due diligence. You want to collect your own facts. You want to arrive at your own conclusion. So that's extremely important. So don't just rely, or especially if that information is being fed by somebody trying to sell you something. I mean, how reliable that information is doesn't make any sense. You need to gather the facts and then figure it out. All right. And most importantly, what are the costs associated with that particular program? If there's a cost associated, you have to be extremely careful. How safe is that? And, what are the chances of you losing your money? If they ask you to transfer the money to their bank account, that should be a red flag. You definitely don't want to do that. So those are the kind of things that you want to pay attention to. Um, and as long as you follow, I think, basic due diligence, you'll be fine. Next thing I would suggest to you is that if you're running into some trouble, then your best bet is to communicate that with the IRS. you know, Especially if IRS sent you a letter already, if they told you what they plan on doing or they are already taking an action, something like that, then definitely do that. But even if they haven't really started any procedure, but you should open up that conversation with them as well. Let them know you need some extension, you need some program or whatnot. If you owe any money to IRS and you call the IRS and request a 30 or 60-day collection hold to stop collection efforts, more than likely IRS will grant that to you, or they will come up with some other program with some minimum payments or something like that. So that's number one. Number two, while you have that collection hold going on, you can work with a proficient tax professional who can offer you some strategies that can perhaps reduce your tax bill or even completely eliminate it. So just because you owe taxes doesn't mean that's the end of the day, right? The problem is this. Normally, when people cannot pay their taxes, they're not in such a good financial situation. And if you go to any professional, they want to get paid for their time. So people avoid paying that consultation fees. For me, for example, right now in 2024, my hourly consultation is 300 bucks. Um, and for some people, that's very difficult. They cannot come up with that 300, and they will go ahead and ignore it and move on to do things on their own. But the ramification of that is they will either not follow the proper procedure and end up paying more in penalties and interest, or number two, they might not be able to reduce their tax bill at all. So I know it sounds like a marketing, but I really mean well for you. And what I'm trying to say is that it's in your interest to seek a professional advice. Let somebody who deals with taxes on regular basis, let them investigate your tax situation and let them recommend strategies. Is it possible that you just might lose out on 300 and not get anything out of it? Yes, but I think chances are very slim. I think if you talk to the right people, they will come up with some good ideas, and those 300 bucks or whatever they might charge for consultation might be worthwhile for you. Now, if you do owe some money at the end of the day, then you can come up with a lot of creative solutions. It's not the end of the day. A lot of people, when they get that letter from IRS, they panic and they are scared and they want to just put it in some place where they never have to see the letter. That is a bad strategy. You really do need to address it. You just need to figure out how to solve the problem. For example, partial payments is one option. Installment payments, offer in compromise. There are a lot of those tools. You can also consider selling assets perhaps that you don't need. Maybe you can do a garage sale. Maybe you have some land that is not making you any money, or maybe you have an extra car or an RV or something like that. And I'm saying this because you don't want that IRS debt. It's costing you money every single day, and more importantly, you're going to have to pay it sooner or later anyways. And then the longer you wait, it's getting more and more expensive. Sometimes I will meet with clients. They think, well, I don't have anything, and there's nothing IRS can do. And sometimes clients have not made the payments for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. But what people don't realize is that IRS has a lot of tools, especially with AI these days. They're able to access a lot more information than ever before. More importantly, people have social media. People put stuff on Twitter, or I guess Twitter doesn't really exist anymore, X or Instagram or Facebook, and IRS has access to all of that stuff as well. So please understand that you cannot really ignore IRS. Always negotiate with IRS in good faith. Make voluntary payments, even if they're small. Show them that you're willing to work with them. Now, if you feel like you cannot control your emotions, you get scared dealing with IRS, you feel like, you know, this rush of blood rushing through you, and you just feel so awkward talking to IRS, then hire a professional. You can work through us. We can call on your behalf. You can hire some other firms. Just be careful that they're reasonably priced. That's the only advice I will have. But ignoring IRS is definitely not a solution. Either you talk to them yourself or you talk to them through a professional. Now, if you ignore IRS, it's only going to escalate the situation. They can levy your bank accounts. They can garnish your wages. So, if you don't ignore their letter, you don't uh, respond back to them, it's not like that problem is solved or that debt goes away. All it does is it makes IRS more aggressive. Sometimes they might even seize your assets. Sometimes they can put a block where you cannot even travel, like you cannot even use your passport. So all kind of things happen. But like I said, uh, people who know all this stuff, I'm saying it in a very not such an aggressive way, but people who understand that they can scare people, they will explain all of this in a much more aggressive fashion. They will use words that will scare the heck out of you, but they're trying to say the same thing, that hey, IRS can take away your travel privileges, IRS can take over your bank account, your assets, your wages, stuff like that, and they'll try to scare the heck out of you. So just don't get scared. Your solution is simply to call IRS and talk to them. You don't really need a third party. You need third party for strategies to help out how you can reduce your taxes, because you know things are changing all the time. The strategies that were working 5 years ago no longer work. Strategies that work today might not work 3 years from now. So they're always changing. That's why you do need to know that. And while I'm on that topic, another thing to keep eye out for is you might not even have a tax problem. Sometimes people are just scammers. They're just calling you to scare the heck out of you for no reason at all, and they're good at it. All they're looking for is 1 or 2% of the people who fall into their trap, who don't feel comfortable picking up a phone and talking to IRS to figure out what's really going on, and they will do all kind of crazy things like transferring money or sending them bitcoins and all kinds of crazy stuff you might have heard on YouTube or other places. Mostly to older people. So especially if you're a senior citizen watching this, please don't send any cryptocurrency. Don't transfer any money. Just hang up. Look up the IRS phone number on your own. Give them a call. If you're not comfortable with them, talk to a tax professional. Let them call for you. Okay. If IRS, let's say you do owe money and IRS decides to put a lien or a levy or garnish your wages, what happens? So first of all, what is a lien? Lien means that IRS places a legal claim on your asset, meaning at some point they can foreclose that asset to make their money back, or at least they can stop you from doing anything with that asset. So that is a lien. Levy you will see typically like on your bank account. So let's say if you have a bank account, the IRS will seize the assets to satisfy the debt. So if you have $10,000 sitting in your bank account, IRS can say, okay, let's levy this bank account, and they will send a letter um, to the bank, and bank will transfer those funds to IRS. Um, Garnishments is when basically IRS goes after your income, your W-2 income, your other income that you might be getting from somewhere else. They can garnish your wages. Some people think that they cannot garnish your Social Security. That is not true. IRS can also go after your Social Security as well. So please understand that. Okay. So those are the three aggressive actions IRS take. And if any of those things has been mentioned in a letter. Like they specifically said, hey, we are going to place a lien, or we are going to levy your bank account, or we're going to garnish your wages. You know that you are at the next stage of collection efforts. And at this point, you really need to either pick up a phone, call IRS, or seek a professional advice for sure. So let's say if you come to me, what would I tell you? I would say number one thing is we need to talk to IRS and at least put a hold on collection efforts. Number two, we need to come up with an installment agreement to make payments over time. IRS typically charges higher interest rate. So if you can get a lower interest rate somehow, pay them off. But sometime I would say it's okay to pay higher interest rate. Why? Because perhaps there are some strategies we can implement and file an amended return to reduce the taxes altogether. Now, if you default on any of those payments plan, now IRS can start their collection effort, and more than likely they are going to be a little bit more aggressive this time because they don't trust you. So um, if they do that, then obviously they can issue you new liens, new levies. So always stay compliant. Another one that I get sometimes, especially when clients get these scary phone calls or they get these scary letters, will I go to jail for owing taxes? Okay. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. But it's possible when somebody is committing a fraud, when they are purposely evading taxes. Those are the situations. So they're doing like money laundering or something like that. Like it's something criminal in nature. Um, that is typical. Oh, actually, sometimes payroll taxes. So sometimes business owners I see they will collect these payroll taxes from their employees and they would not deposit. So that's also kind of like a criminal act. So those are the kind of things where most people will end up in jail because those are criminal in nature. But most other ones, they are more like penalties, and the IRS want you to pay. I mean, at the end of the day, IRS is trying to collect. If they put you in jail, how are they ever going to collect? So don't get too scared about that. While we're talking about these late payments and not being able to pay the taxes, we need to also understand the difference between IRS and the state. State taxes are very different than the federal taxes. State authorities are often more aggressive than the IRS. So people don't realize that when they are living in these high state taxes states like California, for example, that California is way more aggressive than the IRS itself. So um, I personally like states where there is no state tax altogether. But um, if you let's say if you owe $20,000 to IRS and $10,000 to state, and you need to make a decision, who do I pay first? Because you only have $10,000, then my advice would be pay the state first and pay your federal taxes later on. Because, like I said, state is going to be way more aggressive, and your options for dealing with state are a lot less than compared to federal taxes. Some people might be able to get extensions, especially in hurricane affected areas. So I'm recording this in 2024 in October. For example, we all heard what happened in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, those kind of places. If you are from one of those places, then you may qualify for tax relief from IRS and sometime from state. And these things are always changing. For example, right now, IRS is saying, look, if you file the extension for your 2023 tax return, then you have till May 1st of 2025 to file your taxes. But not all areas qualify. So just because there was a hurricane in your state doesn't mean that everybody qualifies. You need to check and make sure you are considered hurricane affected area. So check with the IRS, and they have a website. You go there, type in your county, find out if that county qualifies, and if it qualifies, what is the extended date? Are there any actions you need to take? And I'm saying this in a very general term because each disaster is a little bit different. So I'm picking in hurricane right now because it happened just right now in October. But maybe you're watching this video next year in 2025 or 2026. Videos live on forever on YouTube. So who knows when you're watching. So if you're watching a little bit later on, that's what I would do. I'll go to IRS, I'll check my county, see if that county qualify for any kind of extension, if there are any special instructions, and also check with my state. Sometimes states and federal are not necessarily on the same page. So that's what I think about how to deal with tax problems if you're not able to pay. But at the end of the day, I would strongly suggest that you always file your taxes. You always talk to IRS, tell them what's going on, and lastly, always seek out help from a trusted tax professional They can be of an enormous resource to you. Sometimes people get confused. They confuse them with some of these online tax softwares out there. It's completely different because a tax professional is dealing with tax situations every day, and they look at your situation and they can suggest some unique ways to dealing with situations that you might not find it online. So that's my 2 cents on this topic, but I encourage a conversation. So if you have a tax problem, please definitely reach out to me. Taxcodeadvisors.com is my website. You can set up a free discovery call. We can have a conversation and then we go from there. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. And I look forward to seeing you either at the next webinar, next summit, or at next seminar. Thank you. See you soon.